Hello everyone. This is another video in our RD series of videos, and I'm sure you would have read the title. This is about electricals, primarily the generator and the ignition system. Now, I'm sure when you talk about RDs, electricals, all the debates in India have always been about points versus CDI. uh, that's superficial. This is going to be much deeper than that. So in fact, what you can expect, in every video we've been busting a couple of myths, sometimes even more than a few. So expect us to do that in this video as well along the way. And I'll just say that this is going to be the most enlightening video in our entire RD series of videos. So stay tuned, do watch till the end, because you seriously do not want to miss any bit of this. Before I ask a few questions, in fact I would be asking many questions to Gautam bhai. And before that, I must tell you that in another video we did bust quite a few myths. One of them was that it has been reported in the past many decades by auto journalists, specifically Indian auto journalists, and and of course many enthusiasts, that RD 350B was the real deal. So our RD 350 was based on the RD 350B, and we just didn't get the disc brake, and what else?
It was detuned.
It was detuned, yeah. So these are the only two differences that Indian auto journalists and enthusiasts would always tell you, that these were the only two differences. There's a lot more to it. In fact, like we said in the other video, our RD 350 was not based on the RD 350B. Anyway, we have already covered that in another video. I'll give you the link down below. So other than these two things, the lack of a disc brake, and of course the engine was detuned, there was one major component that was absolutely different, and that was the generator. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. And this generator slash ignition system was never used by Yamaha or any other motorcycles. This is very unique to Indian RD 350. And in fact,
I hate to interrupt. Did you hear that? This was never ever used by Yamaha in any motorcycle. Not just the RD series, RD 50 to RD 400, on any motorcycle. This was unique in the Indian scheme of things, or you can say that under Yamaha's umbrella, this was only on the Indian RD 350. Please continue.
Okay, so the one of the reasons for failure of Indian RD 350 can be attributed to the ignition system, ignition stroke or slash generator system, because of some issues which we will discuss, and we will dwell a bit detailed into those issues. But to give you a little bit of background, that Ascot set themselves against a big cost challenge, and at that time, 1973 to 75, RD 350AB had a very expensive alternator system which was based on a semi-solid state electronics. So it had, just like your conventional Ambassador and Fiat, it had a relay-based voltage regulator,
okay,
and open rectifier unit where you can see diodes and you can see the bridge. So that was the regulator and the rectifier unit of RD 350AB, which was expensive because of the added components, and of course it brings the issues around the serviceability and reliability of those solenoids. So
eventually a cost.
Eventually a cost. How that generator, is that any superior than any other RD 350? So I would say, looking across various other motorcycles, the RD 350AB generator was slightly superior because it was basically an alternator, an AC alternator, where you fed the power to the generator, and then you can increase or decrease the capacity of the generator depending on your demand. So unlike dumping the power on a rectifier regulator, which is on conventional motorcycle, basically you increase parasitic losses with a fixed magnet
True.
generator. However, on an alternator, you can tailor, you can change the demand, you can reduce the load. Hence, why it is slightly better. But then, why did we get it? That might be your next question. So, as I said, that Escort set themselves against a very tight cost target. So, Mitsubishi would have been an obviously expensive component to go for. So,
Ganbhai, I hate to interrupt, for the benefit of our viewers. So please, tell them, where does Mitsubishi come into the picture? If you could just elaborate a bit on that.
Okay, so for any automotive company, there are some favorite OEMs or the OEMs they stay with. Mitsubishi had been one of their major OEMs. So if you pick any 73 to let's say 78 RD, a good RD 350 or 400, you will see most likely the generator system and ignition system is from Mitsubishi. So you can see the logos, you can see the design. It has a twin lubricator, felt lubricator, twin equal points, and it had carbon brushes in them because it's an alternator.
Wait a second. Did you just say equal points?
Yes, equal points.
Okay, that was essentially a reiteration for you guys to, that, the original RD, okay, had, they were same points, right?
They were same points,
Yeah.
left and right,
Yeah.
but they were identical.
They were
Unlike our Indian RD350 generator, where if you open the generator of
Yes.
your bike and if you still have points, you will see that there is a large point and there is a small point.
Let me just show it to them. Large, small, large.
So,
No, but just out of curiosity, because I haven't seen the original RDs
generator faceplate.
generator like in person. So those 2 points,
Yes.
okay, are they like we discussed that those 2 points are identical in size, and they are basically the same. They're actually you can interchange them,
Yes.
right?
Almost interchange. I won't say interchange, but they are exact copy of each other.
All right.
Yeah.
So essentially the size is the same. That we can
Yes.
certainly say with
Similar design.
similar design.
Yes.
Now that would be so the size would be of this size or somewhere in between.
Somewhere it's excuse me, it's a different design.
It's a different design also.
So let's not
yeah.
compare it. The main focus is what is Indian RD350's ignition system, how it is different from the A and B.
True.
So as I said, it was an expensive venture. So Yamaha might have suggested, or Escort might have requested to Yamaha that we need to come up with a cheaper solution. And at that time, when the agreement was signed, as per the website of Yamaha, 1979, Yamaha already rolled out the CDI 400E. So there was no other solution but to keep the cost low. The whole vehicle electrical system had to be point based. So there was no solution but to have a cheaper point system, not a CDI, because CDI would have meant new wiring harness, CDI would have meant new rectifier regulator, 3-phase system, and it would have brought whole host of other things which would have made it even more expensive than going for an AB
So
generator.
not only could we not afford, of course, the CDI
Yeah.
back then.
Yes.
Okay, we of course did not get the generator,
Yeah.
of course, / alternator, because it was not just a generator like you said, it was an alternator.
Yeah.
We did not get that. Why? Because again, even that would have been too expensive.
Yes.
So we got this.
Yes.
And and I'm
So-
sure what's coming next will surprise you.
Yes. So you might guys might have thought that why first thing you do if you are an RD enthusiast, if you like RD remotely, and if you like to sit there once it's been repaired, like I used to work on my RD, from the day one. So first thing you will notice and probably get disappointed that why it has uneven points, why it has unequal points. There is a reason to it, and that is what the reason we will be exploring today in this video. And the reason is where this generator system had been borrowed from. So gentlemen, friends, this generator system which you see doesn't even belong to Yamaha family. This has come from Suzuki, mainly from Suzuki motorcycles, and sourced from Denki Kokuzan, who had been the primary suppliers of Suzuki generator, just like the Mitsubishi had been for Yamaha, and they also supplied various other bikes, including Kawasaki, where they tailor the ignition system. But on a first appearance, you might see that there are a lot of commonalities. Okay, so let's talk about why the points are different and what is the design and what the shortcomings are. So what happened that when Escort went and sourced the generator, so they ended up having an agreement with Denki Kokuzan, and at that time Denki Kokuzan, basically our bike, fortunately or unfortunately, it's like a part bid exercise where most of the components are off the shelf.
True.
Because we could not afford to redesign everything because it would have added cost. So every time it was going back, not to make it expensive. So what we needed was a cheap yet something which had been in production. So Denki Kokuzan seemed to have been the best source. So Escort went in agreement with them and got this generator. This generator has uneven points because, let me tell you a little bit of history where this generator has come from. This generator is identical from Suzuki GT250. GT250 generator, if you Google it, you will see it's exactly same. The only difference is the orientation of generator is off by a few degrees, by 30 degrees or so, because of the crankcase design. And also there is a spacer behind this generator to shoehorn the GT250 generator into Indian RD350. Escort put a spacer because otherwise this would have fouled with the magnet.
All right.
So that is the only difference, and few telltales. If you ever wondered what these two spots are,
Can you show it to the camera, Gautam bhai?
there are two spots here. What these two spots are? These spots were original location for capacitor mount.
All right.
So on GT250 generator, you will see there are two capacitors. And now don't rush and go start buying GT250 generators because you want to now convert the Indian RD350 back to its original glory. So if you look at the GT250 generator, you will see it's basically same lubrication system, same big and small points. Now there are some few features which you might say that why on earth we have got things like this scoop over here. Why we have this scoop? You know what it does. And if you have interest, obviously a little bit in automotive engineering and know-how, then obviously you will always wonder why this generator. So looking into Suzuki's history, the GT series was launched against Yamaha for competition.
Yes.
So they wanted something which could outperform 400 or clearly stand out. So they added one more cylinder into the twin and they made a 380, GT380. And that time GT250, GT380 and GT500 were launched together with a lot of bling and chrome and color schemes to make them look attractive so that people going to Yamaha dealers might consider going to Suzuki dealer. Now Suzuki at that time, it's a very common knowledge, they were little tight-handed for the engine development budget. So they were shuffling things to make it more exotic, somehow not going too deep into grounds up development of engines.
Of course.
So GT380 was kind of like evolution of the existing engines, and they added one more cylinder to it, they added ram air to it, and those things. One of the, I would say, it's not a ball job, but one of the shortcut was that this is a GT380 generator, guys, which you can see,
Yes.
the mother of Indian RD350 generator. So what they did, they had two equal points. They added another third point here because of the space constraint. And this is the smaller point which you see on Indian RD350 and the larger point which you see on the Indian RD350. And this hole over here is for timing because we have a similar hole here. This is for timing. So this scoop which you see on Indian RD350 point, this scoop is basically for the whole of GT380's generator. So GT380, GT250 are the main Suzuki bikes where this generator had been taken from. So what do you think?
Well, I'm sure this is this has not been enlightening only for me, but I'm sure everyone without exception.
Yeah.
I'm sure there would be a couple
So-
of even Yamaha and Suzuki folks who would be like, oh wow, we did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally speaking, companies that do develop their own products and they don't just right away take things as it is from other
Makes sense.
OEMs, because
Yes.
then it kind of people will start pointing that they haven't done their homework properly, and why come the shortcomings? You also get the shortcomings of
True.
that,
True.
which happened to our bike. So. From GT380 to GT250, because on the production line when GT series was produced, they wanted to minimize the part complexity. Hence why they had one large point and one small point. GT250 had that, and fortunately or unfortunately, we inherited that because we got this generator, right?
Yes.
Now, going back to the original RD350 had two event points. It had two lubrication system instead of one non-spring loaded tight-fisted lubricator which we have here, which after 50 kilometers it does nothing almost. It goes bone dry and there is no lubrication. However, on RD350 you have a spring-loaded twin lubricator which takes care of the cam wear. So going back to the failure of RD350 in India, the moment you come out of the dealership, your timing starts drifting, right? And unfortunately, if the mechanic is not aware of the secrets of this generator, you will end up, by the time you reach home, you will most likely gone back to your original timing with which you went to the dealer on first place. So there are some shortcomings on this point system, which I will tell you in a moment. But one of the biggest issue was, first, it was difficult to tune because one of the larger one is easier to tune. The smaller one is far difficult because it doesn't have proper features to tune it properly. Anyhow, even if you tune it, the timing used to shift, and also because of the uneven nature of the design, no matter how much you try to balance it, there would be some difference in the wear rate, some difference in the spring rate, some difference in the basic design of the point. So the right used to do something else, the left used to do something else, and 9 out of 10 bikes, the larger point used to wear out first compared to the right. And this right point, the smaller point, was not only it not only went to Suzuki, but this point, which you see the smaller one, has actually come from an Honda 100cc bike. That is the reason why it has got two little tanks, and that tank was to set the point whilst your generator magnet is in its tube. So this.
Can you show it to? Okay, so I'll hold it for you, Gautam bhai. Can you now show it to?
So on a smaller point, you have two little tanks, and these two little tanks were used on a Honda motorcycle, 100cc motorcycle, to tune the point whilst the magnet was there. So there were holes in the magnet. You used to go in with a screwdriver and used to set the point.
Okay.
Using that. So Denki Gokuzan not only put this unique combination of two different points, they needed a smaller point to package to make it a triple cylinder. So off the shelf, they chose a Honda point because they were the supplier of the Honda. This is exact same replica of the exact same part of Honda, and they plonked it onto the GT380. Convenient.
Wow.
And then from this to GT250, and from GT250 we ended up having this. So this is Suzuki GT250 stroke Kawasaki's point. This is Honda's point. This entire thing is Suzuki GT250, which has been borrowed from GT380 because GT380 didn't have space for three large points. So they ended up with a small Honda point, and this is the whole hodgepodge which has been presented to you, to our
Wow. I'm sure this has been enlightening for all of you without exception.
Yes.
And Gautam bhai, we'll quickly talk about we'll quickly talk about the shortcomings.
Yes.
And what would be your tips, suggestions, and if you have any enlightening stuff on that as well,
Yeah.
how we can improve that.
So my findings are, that's a very good question. My findings are that if you want to restore your RD350 back to its original glory, and if you want to know the secrets of how to tune this, first thing first, try to get the genuine points from Denki Kokuzan, and there is a symbol for it which I'll show in a photograph. Try to source the genuine points, and these are internationally available. Kawasaki GT250 points, the large one, Honda, I can't remember exactly, but we will put it on the caption.
You can see it on your screen right now.
Honda or GT250 points, so you can take the GT250 generator as it is, get rid of the coil, because the coils have two separate outlets which will complicate the things, but you can take the faceplate, you can take the points, and you can straight away bolt it onto Indian RD350 and it will work.
Okay.
Now, because of the difference in the rotation on GT250, the generator sits with these holes, the mounting holes at just like a clock, like 12 degrees and
Okay.
8 o'clock and 4 o'clock. However, because of the nature of the crankcase on Indian RD350, it had been turned like this.
Okay.
So that means that the cam is also the Indian cam, although it is exactly same as GT250 cam, but you have to remove the pin to turn the cam with the generator if you want to retrofit the GT250 generator onto the Indian RD350.
Okay.
That is the main difference. And then whilst at it, you might as well put the original capacitors, just do the M6 holes and put the original capacitor. Now, one of the secrets which I was thoroughly disappointed being an automotive enthusiast, that this inherent nature of point slippage can be addressed by tightening the screws properly just for the points. I'm not talking about the plates. Don't go mad and bust the thread. You don't have to do it.
Hate to interrupt, Gautam bhai. We did not. So while you were telling us about the points earlier, okay, in the first half, you did mention about the slippage.
Yes.
I think you did.
Yes.
However, if you could just elaborate a bit on that, and so that people who do not know about this, they get to know what exactly that slippage is.
Yes.
If you could just break it down for viewers who would want to know this.
So what happens?
I'll hold it for you.
So what happens that by virtue of friction between the point plate and the main plate on which the point has been mounted, by virtue of friction, the point stays in place. These points experience great forces from the cam, because cam is trying to lift and close like.
For those who don't know, cam is right here
in the middle of the 2 points, and the cam is responsible to open and close the points. So what happens that since the point is experiencing the cyclic load, opening closing, so if there is any looseness in the point, this might be very obvious that obviously you have to tighten it. But why it is so critical? Because this generator was primarily derived from Suzuki T10 when it was made by Denso.
Okay.
Denso made the 250 twin with self-start, and that required a governor in the generator to back off the timing so that the self has some opportunity to start the engine.
Mm-hmm.
So any bike which has a governor, the cam is large. So from T10 to T20, they got rid of the governor, but the cam is still large. So that is the reason why Indian RD cam is so much larger in diameter compared to the US 350. The cam is much thinner because it is going back to the original Suzuki T10, T20, which was done by Denso. And from Denso, it went to Kokuzan. And when it went to Kokuzan, one of the things which they got rid, again Kokuzan were up against the challenge to make it as cheap as possible. The original T10 220 had spots. Those spots were engraved onto the plate. That aided in the friction. I'll show you in the picture what I'm talking about. And any sensible or any reasonable generator will have those friction spots to aid the friction so that the point do not slip. Because just in case if the torque of the screw is not up to the mark, the point will start moving, and ever so slightly. Okay, so what happens that due to the when we went from T10 to 220 to GT250, we got rid of many features, and one of the features was the reliability of these points to stay in place.
Wow.
So what you need to do is, if nothing, you need to make sure that the screw of the point is tightened properly. Then that gets rid of the drifting. Unfortunately, you cannot address with this design. You cannot address the uneven wear because this is small point. I have measured it on the spring scale. It can be up to 1200 grams force putting on the cam, and this is generally around 800 grams. So there is a difference of 400 grams, which will always manifest into right cylinder behaving ever so slightly different than left cylinder.
True. All right, Gautam bhai, one question. Can we correct this? And if yes, how?
So again, you have to look back into a history. If you want to have the generator with both equal points, so between T10, T20, and GT250, there were bikes called T250, T500.
Yes.
They were the best generators, I would say, which are quite close to this and which you can still use them. Yes, you can use them. They have two equal points. They have two lubricators, proper lubricators with large reservoirs to contain oil, and they are beautiful generators. They have two even points. So what you do is you take the T500 generator. It might have single lubricator, but you can always put the second lubricator.
Okay.
Or T250. So T250 again had two different generators, slightly different. One had where the faceplate can be turned, so both points can be simultaneously tuned, and the later T500 had exact same faceplate but with two equal points and two lubricators.
Okay.
So that is the best favor you can do to Indian RD350 is get a T500 generator with two even points, which is you will experience on my bike.
All right.
And you might be able to take some videos as well. I'm running T500. It's a beautiful ignition system. It addresses the issues which we inherited in legacy, that one point behaves differently, the other point behaves differently. And during the whole process, this is for last 10 or 15 years, I've been exploring the evolution of RD350, and one of the major findings was the evolution of Indian RD350's ignition system. So this is basically a T500 generator, which is similar to what this bike was initially supplied with. The advantage is that we have got two similar points, two large lubricators with canister, then capacitors mounted next to the points, and it has perfect adjustment for both gap and the timing of the points, where you can use a screwdriver and do it accurately in a much shorter time. Rest of the generator is exactly same. The coil is what the bike came with. So this 4F I've handwritten, that is the grade for the magnet and the coil. All I have done is change the faceplate, put a new cam, new points, and this is an old T500 generator. It came with single lubricator, but T250 have two lubricators, so I've just put another lubricator here. So 250 is similar, but they have an adjustment plate here where you can adjust both points together. However, on this one, it is more like ours, but bit more refined. So, and in terms of wiring is no different, but rather bit more civilized, I would say, because both the point wirings are coming through the hole where it should be routed. And yeah, basically not much different.
Thank you so much, Gautam bhai. Thank you so much.
Going back to your original question, how it is different. Now this is a AC generator, simple single pole AC generator. That's two wires, single solid state rectifier and regulator, which is directly connected to the battery. So it's all about cheap.
True.
As I said, that our original RD350 had a non-solid, semi-solid state rectifier regulator. It had relays and exposed diode rectifier. However, this one was much cheap and cheerful, and but for a person with a lesser experience and know-how, it was a nightmare. No wonder why most of the RDs there was horrid stories that RD never returned more than 10 km per liter, and then by the time it used to reach home, it used to, never used to perform the way how you bought it. So unfortunately, this secret of tightening the point, some old mechanics who had been working with Fords for a very long time, they might know, but they will never tell you. The reason why they will never tell you, because they don't want to let their lively go. If you want a reliable bike, you need to keep going to them. And one of the secret is that they use, with their all might, they used to tighten the point, and the screw. Almost 99% RDs, you will see the screw heads are flared
Absolutely,
up. Flared
absolutely,
up. That's the reason, because
absolutely.
some mechanic knew, even the escort service centers knew, that this has a inherent problem of slippage. That's the reason they used to go in with a
Yes.
large screwdriver with all the body force, they used to tighten it. However, most of the RD mechanics who were not aware of this shortcoming, customers used to face a lot of difficulty with the point drifting, and unfortunately, we never. What Denki Kokuzan should have done is, instead of giving GT, they should have given us T500 generator. It would have been a slight air of relief, because of the two even point, you have better chance of controlling the uneven wear. Then with two lubricator, it would have been. Of course, then again you will say that you're going to your own targets of keeping the cost low.
True.
But if you look at the content, all you are doing is you are replicating the one point which is on one side to the other. So you are definitely helping with the complexity, line side complexity, where when you are assembling the vehicle, how many parts you're getting for it.
Of course.
So, however, the D500 was superseded by GT, and GT500 had a CDI. So, unfortunately, by the time DK offered us this generator, that beautiful 2-point system was long gone. But they could have reverse engineered. They could have offered the same plate, because they were the owners of the design.
Absolutely.
But they
absolutely.
didn't bother. They just went onto the shelf. They picked up the GT250 generator and said, "Here you go. Just put it on your bike, and it should work." Now, the Escort service manual doesn't go in any detail of what are the strengths and weaknesses, the signs of uneven firing.
Of course.
First thing happens, the bike came with 5.5 ampere battery.
Uh-huh.
Once the RD was out of sync, there was no 5.5 ampere.
True.
99% bikes, I would say 99 or 1% imports, you could find 5.5 outside, so you could fit that correct battery. We used to run on a smaller battery, on a 5 amp kinetic Honda Kawasaki KV100 battery.
Yes.
So what used to happen with the age, the battery capacity used to decrease. First thing used to happen, one of the cylinders used to get conked out because of the lower voltage. Then, to complicate the situation, lower voltage has a direct effect on the contact condition. Then, for some reason, all the capacitors should be mounted on the faceplate near to the point. Our bike is the only RD350 where the capacitor had been taken out and mounted at the boot. There is a great 6-inch wire or 4-inch wire and the capacitor. There could be one reason that instead of two components, you have one component, is cheaper, less machining, less number of fasteners. But then, the further you take the capacitor away, it had some detrimental effect on the whole system. For that, you have to read the thesis of ignition system. But to summarize, it's best to keep the capacitors next to the point. So whilst you are going for GT250 or even better T500, you are also putting back the capacitor where it should be.
It should be ideally.
Now, some strange reason, all Suzukis were at 0.18 microfarad.
Okay.
Indian RD350 was launched at 0.24, 0.25 microfarad. Now again, why? The coils are same. The resistance of the coils between GT250 and our bike is similar. The whole ignition system is similar. Okay, there is a difference in compression and engine. Then all the purists might say that okay, it's a different engine. You cannot compare GT250 with RD350. That could be the probable reason. But when you are doing the conversion to T500, if you put 0.18, you will see that if nothing, you are not losing anything. You are putting the capacitor where it should be. It is to the correct value, and possibly you will have better mileage from the points. Then 0.25, which could be over capacitance for this. What is the chemistry? I don't know, because I don't know what the material they used and what was going on back then with decay, why they approved 0.25 because the capacitance was further away from the generator. I don't have that info, so I cannot claim why they did it, but it was a fact that they did it. They put a 0.25, it was away from the generator, and it was 0.18, which you see in all GT and T500 series. Okay, so these are the things which you can do to improve the reliability of generator. If you are a purist of Indian RD350, you want to keep the points, but somehow do the justice of improving it, then you can do it. But remember, as I said, because of the orientation, the degrees, you have to if you take the GT250, T500 cam, you have to remove the cam locator pin and you have to turn it with the generator, otherwise you will never get your timing wrong, and then everyone would be writing in comment that I tried to retrofit a GT250 and 500 and the timing is completely
without
off. The timing,
orientation.
Correct, the timing is off because, as I said earlier, the GT250 orientation, if you look at the picture, the top bolt is here. On RD350, it's here. So, for obvious reason, you have to turn the cam with it.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Obviously, it would have been much nicer if Indian RD350 would have got CDI. Just like RX100, it would have been great success, because RX100 being 100 capacity was such a beautiful bike.
Absolutely.
Should it have been a point bike, it would have been a big failure in comparison to other 100 cc's which were running on CDI. Because CDI is much higher voltage, the primary is higher, the secondary is higher, it is more forgiving for fueling. However, with the point-based system, you have a lot of legacies issues with you can't go higher compression because it can't fire. The poor thing is only getting 12 volts, you know.
True.
So there is, it imposes lot of challenges. However, it gave us a cheap solution, hence why we got the bike on first place. I'm thankful to Escort.
Oh, absolutely.
We're thankful to Escort
No two ways
because of
about
all their endeavors, they made it cheap, and hence why we got it. Should they have been sticking with Mitsubishi, probably just like Java 350, there would have been just handful bikes, because it would have been so expensive.
Yes.
The people keep crying about the disc brake, that we never got the disc brake, and the Monica RD's race death and all that, which is great to hear. But you should see what challenges company was going, and you should appreciate
Escort's endeavor, absolutely,
engineering prowess that they went all the way to get the bike so that it could become affordable.
It could have been a simple no that, oh, you know what, this is too expensive. We tried, but we could not get it. These chaps were like, okay, you know what, let's see what all components we can, you know, just still get cheaper options and still retain, you know, that explosiveness of, you know, this motorcycle intact.
Yeah, so performance-wise, when your both points, even on Indian RD350, are firing at the same time, when your bike is new, everything is in place. Engine doesn't see much of a difference. Engine doesn't see or should not see much of a difference. Okay, but soon after things starts changing, it goes pear-shaped. If you take a US RD350, you might find that its generator and ignition system is bit more reliable, less fiddly, and less temperamental. It is a bit more forgiving. It stays on time for long. Okay.
Is it only because of the point slippage?
Probably the design, the lubrication system. The point is smaller. The cams are smaller. They are identical. So it's a different. I would say back to back, that is a superior ignition system. Some might prefer to go back to the RD350 generator. However, I would like to say that is a semi-solid state. So you have to change the wiring, you have to change the rectifier, you have to change the regulator, all that drama. You will inherit. So don't bother going there.
It's not worth it, you would say.
Don't bother go there. Don't change the true nature of your bike. If you really want to do a favor, if you want to stay with your point system, go for GT250 or T500, even better. I repeatedly say T500 because of the even points, or T250. But with the T250, you will get a faceplate which also turns. True. So it is a little bit more complex for people. They might say that there are extra screws, but why not? Why not? True. That will give you an advantage of simultaneously tuning the both points together.
That makes sense.
So from T500 we went to T250, we went to GT250, and GT250 had two unsimilar points. We inherited that. So you can go back to T500 or T250.
Makes sense.
So
Makes
that is what it is basically.
Great. And before we sign off for today's video, just a couple of bonus questions. Just one question rather. Any tips, Gautam bhai, for people who have the stock RD generator, stock points? Just a couple of tips you can share that are do's and don'ts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First tip is be very careful with the spurious cam, aftermarket cam, because we can make a whole video on that.
Okay.
Cams have a quick ramp. On Indian original cam or GT250, they have a quick ramp, and that helps to separate the point quickly and not arc and get damaged.
Okay.
All the desi cams or local cams which are available, they don't have that quick ramp because making that is very, very difficult. So it is very smooth and uniform.
Okay.
The cam, looking at, you can see the crescent, like a moon, like a crescent.
True.
You can see that it has a uniform ramp, but it doesn't have that kink. So if you take the original RD cam or a GT250 cam and turn it between your three fingers and focus on the surface, you will find a spot where the point separates. It has a hump.
Yes.
And you have to do it with a very peaceful mind. You can't just, it is not very apparent.
Apparent,
but it is there.
Yeah.
Now, all these aftermarket people cannot replicate that because you need a CNC for that, you need a know-how, you need to reverse engineer that thing. So stay with genuine cam. If you can't find the genuine Escort cam, get a GT250 or T500 cam, remove the pin, retime it. One time you have to retime it. But once you do it, then it's good for a very long time because you don't change the cam orientation, and don't be too tempted to use worn out points with the new cam and change the timing, so that you can take an advantage of, because if you do that, you are again in unknown operating engineering territory where you will be subjected to various things beyond imagination.
All right.
So stick within the upper and lower limits, tune it, put the original cam, and then make sure that your generator, your point ignition system components are clean, tighten them properly, tune it, tighten them properly with a proper screwdriver. If you have JIS screwdriver, use the JIS screwdriver. The point being that you have to tighten the screws properly. Then the felt pad, which it has, the tiny felt pad, keep it lubricated, apply some little bit of grease, don't overdo, don't overkill by putting too much oil, otherwise you will start throwing the oil into the points and it will completely spoil it. Also, that reminds me that T500 and T250 generators have a splash guard on them.
Wow.
So they have two lubricators, but they have a splash guard on them.
Splash guards.
And that protects the point from any excess oil slinging onto them.
Wow.
So you can see how much superior that is.
Yes, the thought that has gone into it. That's proper engineering,
Yes,
right?
it is.
I mean, this is like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you will do that. Yeah, this would suffice. You can take and just get off.
Yeah, on a budget.
On a budget,
So a chain is as strong as the weakest link, as people say.
Absolutely.
This generator was the success story behind the success story of Indian RD350 because it was cheap. However, this generator was one of the reasons of failure of RD350 when it is to return a poor fuel efficiency. Now, if you tune a proper HT or a LT with a proper point setup, there is no reason why it won't give 20 plus for HT and mid 20s for LT.
I would agree.
Both cylinders will fire in sync.
I would agree.
It will sound sweet. And now again, we to end this video, there is a big debate between CDI and points. I tell you, when you run the bike on points, the initial acceleration, the signature of RD350, that noise, that sound of RD350. So I'm not saying that get yourself sign off for a misery by getting rid of your reliable CDI and going for points, because
you're not saying that.
Unless you are a purist and you know what you're doing, going to points could be detrimental for the health of your bike. Stay with CDI. Go for CDI if you can't handle the misery. But if you can, and if you know what you're doing, going for points will give you the experience, the true nature of
that flavor.
RD350, because it was designed around points. All the testing, the development done by Yamaha, everything, including the fueling, including the sound signature of the bike, everything was based on the point ignition system.
Point ignition system.
There are some, I mean, definitely some world-class CDIs around.
Yeah.
But then there is no limit to upgrade. You can put twin disc for the sake of argument, do whatever.
Yes,
but
yes.
Nowadays people
Honestly,
have
I've
multiple
always-
bikes.
yeah.
You know, so
I've always found them, twin disc, I've always found them
Yeah.
to be an overkill.
yeah,
Okay.
certainly. Because
Unsprung weight, I mean, come on.
yes. So similarly, staying with the genuine RD, if you can afford to have more than one bike, and if you want to keep the bike to its true nature, then get rid of this generator if you can.
Mhm.
If you don't want to get rid of the generator, then buy the GT250
Cam.
points as it is and cam.
Uh-huh.
Bolt it on, it will work for you. Obviously changing the timing. If you want to improve it a little bit, still keep it to its true nature, then go for a T500 or T250 generator, and then you're sorted. You know, don't use the generator coil as it is. That will require rewiring of electronics. But I'm just talking about the faceplate, guys.
Absolutely.
Remember, this is the faceplate. I'm not talking about the whole generator. You can install the whole generator, but that will require rewiring because I think it has 3 to 4 wires.
Okay.
The GT250 500, it had a different control logic. So don't bother going in that. Just get a generator, remove the faceplate, use the point plates, points, lubricators, and you are good to go. You know.
Lovely.
So I hope this is one of the sweet spot of the series of videos which we are making. This is one of the great findings, I would say.
Absolutely. No second thoughts on it, Gautam, right? I mean, people say that, people who really know about the RD350, that I'm talking about, of course, the Indian Rajdoot 350, okay, that the Achilles heel, okay, of course, for the masses it was average, the mileage, okay, but people who really knew that, it was the ignition system. And I'm glad that you addressed it, Gautam, and I'm sure many would find this very helpful and enlightening. Okay, and do leave your comments below, and we'll see you soon in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.